A white hull cutting hard across turquoise water, two engines screaming, the sun going down gold over Miami, and a man at the wheel who looks like he owns the whole world. You were young when you first saw it, and somewhere deep down, in a place you had almost forgotten, you wanted to be him so badly it hurt. That boat wasn't just a boat. It was everything you dreamed your life might become. This is the story of how it got under your skin and never left. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and drop a comment letting us know where you are watching from. This is the full story, not the corporate version, the human one. Some boats carry a family. This one carried a fantasy. For one shining decade, this sleek white speedboat became the single most wanted thing in America. And not because of what it cost or how fast it went, but because of what it promised. It promised that you could be fast and free and a little bit dangerous. That the night was young and the water was warm and the whole glittering world was yours for the taking. Millions of men watched it tear across the bay every single week and felt something light up inside them that they could not even put into words. Most of them never touched one. It did not matter. They wanted it with their whole hearts, and that wanting became part of who they were. But before it was a fantasy, it was something pure and simple. It was a dream in the mind of one man who just loved to go fast. He was a Californian, an engineer by training, but a racer by heart. And the thing that made him feel alive was the ocean at full throttle, the pounding, the spray, the edge of control. And in the early 70s, he sat down and designed a boat to chase that feeling. A long, lean, deep-hulled thing built to knife through the kind of brutal offshore water that tossed other boats around like toys. He named her after the race cars his friend built. And the first time he ran her flat out and the hull held true where others would have shaken themselves apart, he knew he'd made something special. Because here's what made him different. He wasn't just building a fast boat, he was inventing. He did things with that hull that nobody had done before, weaving in new materials to make her lighter and stronger, finding tricks to make her cut cleaner and hold tighter, and the result was a boat that didn't just win, it dominated. Out on the open ocean, where the waves are mountains and a single mistake ends you, his boat started crossing the line first. Again and again and again, and you have to understand what that kind of racing actually was. This was not a lake on a calm afternoon. This was the open sea at full throttle. The hull slamming off the back of waves so hard it could knock the breath out of you. The spray coming over like buckshot. The engines howling inches behind your back. Men were thrown from these boats. Men were hurt. It took a particular kind of courage to climb into that cockpit at all, let alone to win. And that danger was exactly why the whole world watched. Because deep down, every man who ever pushed a throttle wondered if he had that kind of nerve in him. These boats were the ultimate test of it, and the people who tamed them became legends. And one of the people winning in them stopped the whole sport cold, because the driver hoisting trophies, beating the toughest men in the most dangerous racing on Earth, was a woman. She climbed into that cockpit and took on the entire field and won a world championship, and the crowds couldn't get enough of her. People still talk about watching her race with a kind of awe in their voices. She was proof of what these boats were, that they didn't care who you were or where you came from. They only cared whether you had the nerve, and she had more than anyone. By now, the boat had a name that meant something, so the racer joined forces with a Florida builder, and together they took his racing machine and made it real for the rest of us. And the legend kept growing, championship after championship, record after record, faster and faster, until these boats were screaming across the water at speeds that seemed impossible. The boat was riding high, and then television reached out and touched it and turned it into something immortal. Because in the middle of the 80s, that white hull roared onto a TV show about two detectives in Miami, and nothing was ever the same again. 10 million people sat down every week to watch it. 10 million. And every episode opened the same intoxicating way, with that boat flying across the bay, the city glittering, the music pulsing, the impossibly cool man at the wheel in his pastel suit with the sleeves pushed up. It was not a prop, it was the star. That sleek white shape became one of the most recognizable images on all of television, burned into the memory of an entire generation in a single season. And you knew it the second you heard that music start, that pulsing electric opening that meant the week was over and the dream was about to begin. The neon city at night, the palm trees bent in the warm wind, and then that boat, low and fast and gleaming, carving a long white scar across the dark water while the man at the wheel chased down the bad guys with the sea spray flying and not a single worry in the world. For 1 hour, the danger was beautiful, and the good guys always won, and the water always sparkled. It was the most glamorous thing a working man had ever been invited to imagine, and it pulled into your living room every single week, free of charge, and let you ride along. And do you remember how it made you feel? Be honest. You were sitting on the couch in an ordinary house after an ordinary day, and for 1 hour a week, that boat carried you somewhere else entirely. Somewhere with palm trees and warm wind and a horizon that went on forever. It made you believe just a little that your life could be bigger than it was, that somewhere out there was a version of you that was fast and free and golden. That's not what a boat does. That's what a dream does. And for millions of men who would never own one, this was the dream they carried in their chest for the rest of their lives. And for a lot of them, they didn't watch it alone. They watched it beside their father. A man and his boy on the same couch on a weeknight, the lights down low, both of them leaning in a little when that white hull came flying across the water. Maybe they didn't say much. Maybe they never said much. But for 1 hour a week, they shared the exact same dream. The boy and the old man, both of them imagining the warm wind and the open water and a life with a little more thrill in it. Years later, that boy would be a grown man himself, and his father would be gone, and he'd still feel that ache every time he saw that white hull. Because it didn't just remind him of a boat, it reminded him of his dad sitting right there beside him, young and alive and dreaming the very same dream. Even the star of the show couldn't resist it. He fell for these boats so hard in real life that he wasn't content just to drive one on camera. He had them build him his own, a monster with 2 Italian supercar engines crammed into the back, and then he went out and raced it for real, against real racers, because pretending to live the dream was never going to be enough once he'd tasted the real thing. That's how powerful this boat's pull was. It turned a movie star into a racer. And the country went wild for it. Sales exploded almost overnight. People walked into dealerships and pointed and said, "That one, the one from the show, I want to feel what he feels." The builder made a special edition, an exact echo of the boat from television, and only a tiny handful were ever made, each one costing a small fortune, each one snapped up by someone chasing that same golden feeling. For a few short years there, this was the most wanted boat in the world. And everybody, rich or poor, young or old, understood exactly what it stood for. And maybe that's the thing that hit the hardest, because most of the men dreaming about that boat were not rich men. They were men who got up before dawn and worked with their hands and came home tired, men who counted every dollar and put their kids first and rarely bought a single thing just for themselves. A boat like that was never really going to happen for them, and somewhere inside they knew it. But the dream cost nothing, and on a hard week, in a hard year, that white hull flying across the water was a small, private promise a man could make to himself. that one day, that maybe, that he hadn't given up on the idea of something thrilling and beautiful with his name on it. For a lot of good men, that quiet little dream was a kind of fuel. It kept something alive in them that the daily grind would otherwise have worn away. But no decade lasts forever, and the saddest truth about a fantasy is that the world eventually moves on from it. The years passed, the show ended, tastes changed, and the white-hot desire that once surrounded these boats slowly began to cool. The company that built them got bought and sold and bought again, passed from hand to hand until the magic had been wrung out of it, and today that proud name survives only as a faded echo of what it once was, a shadow of the legend it used to be. The boat that owned a decade simply, quietly, let go of it. And for a while, it really did feel like it was over. The boats grew older. The young men who dreamed of them grew older too, traded their dreams for mortgages and car payments, and the thousand small responsibilities that fill up a life. The poster came down off the wall. The show became a rerun, then a memory. And that golden feeling, the one that once lit a whole generation up inside, seemed to fade quietly into the past, the way the best parts of being young always seem to. And yet, here is the part that gets me, because that dream never actually died. It just went looking for the men who'd loved it. Somewhere out there tonight, in a quiet garage, there's a man who's now in his 60s, and in front of him sits a white hull he spent years hunting down and longer bringing back to life. The exact boat he watched as a young man and swore that someday, somehow, he'd have. His hands aren't as steady as they used to be, but he runs one of them slowly along that gleaming hull. And for just a second, the years fall away, and he's 25 again, and the sun is going down gold over the water, and the whole decade is still ahead of him, fast and free and forever. He finally got his dream, and every time he takes her out and feels that old familiar roar come alive beneath him, he gets to be, one more time, the man he always wanted to be. You can't sell that feeling. You can't manufacture it. You can't buy it back once it's gone. And you certainly can't kill it. It outlived the show. It outlived the company. It outlived almost everything. Because some dreams don't fade with the decade that made them. Some dreams just wait, quietly, for the boy who first believed in them to come back home. You never could put a price on that, and you never will. If this story stayed with you, hit subscribe so the next one finds you when it is ready.